Lit Fridays with, Lit Fridays with Emmai Alaquiva. Good evening, Augustonians. Welcome to Lit Friday, and welcome back if you're joining us all anew. We are a digital program that happens on the final Friday of every month with the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, and we interview artists, thinkers, and creators from the African diaspora. And these conversations that we have just focus on their processes, their lives, and also some of the challenges of being an artist in the contemporary world. Just an update. When November and December comes, we change the timing of Lit Fridays. While traditionally on the final Friday of every month from 6 to 7 p.m., on November, we will be having Lit Friday on November 18th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're welcoming award-winning poet Philip B. Williams, author of Thief in the Interior and Mutiny. So please update your calendars and make sure that you're able to be with us. We also have some additional events going on at the end of October as well as in November. We have Emmai Alaquiva's opening of his exhibition, OpticVoices, Mama's Boys. We're going to talk about it today. But also, just reminders, we have Roger Guenveur-Smith doing his one-man show, Frederick Douglass Now, on November 5th. And we also have Tia Fuller here for the Uhuru Jazz Series, and she's gonna be here with us playing some music and talking about her process. And if you are an aspiring or new or experienced filmmaker, the Black Bottom Film Festival is opening its submissions. So make sure that you get your videos in from November 7th to February 13th, so our next Black Bottom Film Festival may feature your work. We're here with Emmai Alaquiva, and it's very special. Our Lit Fridays are always special and unique because all of our guests are very different, but this is special because Emmai is here producing this episode. An four-time Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, photographer, producers, producing this episode of Lit Friday. So we are so thankful to have you here with us, providing your time, providing your expertise. This is so generous of you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here on Lit Fridays. I don't think that I'm lit, but you know, being on Lit Fridays is what it's all about.
No, you're most definitely lit.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Emmai Alaquiva, a four-time Emmy Award-winning film director, photographer, and composer, skillfully showcases the soulful account of humanity across multidisciplinary art platforms. Once homeless, Alaquiva shifted the trajectory of his life's path to become one of the most distinct trailblazers in the arena of creative arts. Multi-award decorated, Alaquiva is the CEO of Your Mama's House, Inc., a digital media agency, co-founder of the Hip-Hop On L.O.C.K youth program, and curator of the exhibition we're going to be discussing today, OpticVoices, an interactive photography exhibit. Alaquiva holds a 2017 Emmy nomination for the international directorial debut of the film Ghetto Steps, and was selected by the city of Pittsburgh to spearhead the Amazon pitch video for their second headquarters. Moreover, Alaquiva is a Pittsburgh Business Times and Smart 50 Pittsburgh's top CEO, appointed to serve on the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts under Governor Tom Wolf, nationally honored as Black Enterprise Magazine's B100 Modern Men of Distinction, as well as a national BMe Community Leader recognized by still our president, Barack Obama.
Still.
Most recently, Alaquiva wrote and directed a viral PSA called Unspeakable, featured on Good Morning America and seen by over 300 million people in over 60 countries, which aims to amplify the voices of the deaf, hard of hearing, and those with disabilities. Emmai won 2 2021 Emmy Awards for his social justice work and was selected by Google as a contributing film director for the 2021 Google Year-End Search film released globally. For his complete bio, this is not complete. There is yet still many more accomplishments from Emmai Alaquiva. Visit his website, which is at emmaialaquiva.com. That's EMMAIALAQUIVA.com.
Thank you so much for reading that.
No, I had to read it. Everybody has to know. Everybody has to know. And it's the short bio.
That was a mouthful. That was a mouthful, but you rocked it.
Well, you provided it.
That was lit.
So I'm looking around at all of the production. I'm looking around at the cameras. You're producing this for us, this gift. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And so my question is, how do you decide which projects to take on? You
Wow.
are the director.
Yeah.
You see the vision in your head. But some of the projects you take on are so varied, they span so many subjects. How do you decide what you're going to dedicate your very precious time to?
So, you know, growing up as an artist, I realized the best investment that we can make is in other people. And I sort of wrap that motto into what it is that I do. You know, when you go online, you see things on the internet, you see this, you see that you might agree with, you might not agree with. But I strongly believe that you should stream something that means something. And in 2020, just as an example, with the PSA for the deaf and hard of hearing community, Unspeakable, you know, I had to explain to my 8-year-old daughter at the time on who George Floyd was, because she kept seeing it, she kept hearing it at school and things of that nature. So I sat my daughter down and I had her repeat George Floyd's name 5 times in a row. And she didn't know the reason. You know, why am I saying this man's name? Who is this man? I said, repeat after me, George Floyd. She repeated it 5 times. And then I said, do you have any idea who that is? And she said, no. And then I went on to explain that, you know, George Floyd was someone that was taken from us prematurely.
Yes.
And she said, wow, you know, that's really sad, Dad. And I picked up my camera, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, and I started going out to protests and marches and things of that nature throughout Pittsburgh. And I began to take photography, and when I would come home, my daughter would look over my shoulder, and she would say, hey, listen, you know, I like these photos, but no one is doing sign language in any of these photos. And the reason why she said that is because we wanted to learn ASL together because we started the same. And that proved to be remarkable for our relationship. And not only that, she began to learn a different language.
Exactly. That
was outside of Spanish or French or whatever the case is. And it was also amplifying for other people who might not have had the loudest voice. You know, they might have had the loudest whispers, but maybe not necessarily the loudest voice. So I wrote Unspeakable overnight, and I had her sort of take a look at it. And I said, I'm going to produce and direct this so that the rest of the world could hear individuals that might not necessarily have the loudest voice. But to be an advocate, this is what this means. So selecting projects like Unspeakable or projects like OpticVoices, Mama's Boys, underscores what we need to do as artists. When Paul Robeson said it best, artists are the gatekeepers of the truth. Why do we do this art? And my last point to sort of land the plane here, Jessica, is that during a pandemic, people realized how valuable arts was.
Exactly.
Where would we be during a pandemic if it wasn't for paintings, photos, books, movies? Shout out to Tiger King, not that it needs any more, but I would never watch Tiger King. But during the pandemic, I found myself watching and appreciating arts in a way that I never, ever was able to appreciate it. So in selecting strategic projects that make a difference long after I'm gone is why I do projects like OpticVoices, Mama's Boys, Unspeakable, and more.
Well, it's also interesting because this is not easy material. And being an artist, especially an artist that has the dedications that you do, there's a psychological as well as an emotional toll. How do you take care of yourself, and how do you take care of the people that you work with? How do you, once you finish a project or come home from a long day's work, readjust yourself, to fortify yourself, to answer the questions, and to, like for OpticVoices, Mama's Boys, for instance,
yes.
You are intimately engaging with
so.
Black mothers who have lost their sons due to police brutality. How do you prepare yourself for the next day and the next day? How do you take care of yourself psychologically and emotionally?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Besides my wonderful wife, my wonderful 10-year-old daughter, sleeping well, eating well, sort of taking care of that, meditation, having a spiritual foundation and platform in which to build what I do on underscores sort of the foundation that I have. But I also understand that there's a level of emotional processing that I have to do within myself. So what I like to do, especially for example of OpticVoices Mama's Boys, is I actually started the conception of Mama's Boys in the summer of 2020. So I've been working on this for over 2 years. But what was therapeutic is the fact that here were sons that were no longer here, no longer with us. They don't have the ability to tell stories outside of the story that is in their legacy. So, you know, while watching George Floyd call out to his mama, you know, during his last moments, when his mother was gone for over 2 years, I believe.
Yes.
She was gone for a long time, but he still called out. So I began to think about my mother and other mothers that are faced with having to raise sons. That is one of the hardest jobs in American history, if not the world, is raising a black son. That's very difficult. So as an artist, what can I do to hug and orbit what healing looks like, but to put black mothers in a light that can be shown, love, and even though we might not necessarily always heal, and that will be a lifetime process to heal, we can still distribute hugs.
Yes.
I can still hug your heart. I can still embrace Allison Jean in St. Lucia after I get off the plane and drive an hour and a half to where she is. I can walk with her on the same grounds that Botham Jean walked with his church. You know what I mean? I could walk around the streets of St. Louis, or it's individuals like Leslie McSpadden, where we're walking the streets of St. Louis and me having her stand in the middle of the street with, you know, a picture of Mike Brown, bless his soul, in the middle of the streets, and then strategically waiting for the traffic lights to turn red above her. All those metaphoric, meticulous things that go into a photo that speaks 1,000 words. It's intentional and important for us as artists to make sure that we place every word that's in that photo.
Yes, I agree. So we've discussed it, the exhibition, OpticVoices Mama's Boys. It opened October 22nd. It runs through to January 30th or 31st.
It does, yeah, 31st. Yeah.
That's quite a long show. Congratulations. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much. It's a whirlwind.
Could you tell us the scope of the project, the different components that went into it, and what's your favorite component of this project thus far?
Yes, absolutely. So OpticVoices is an interactive mixed media exhibit that focuses on photography, film, augmented reality, and really just telling incredible stories of these mothers. And when you think of the photography is real because it freezes a moment in time that could potentially last for generations. There's photos in people's family that lasted for 100 years plus, and it's important to sort of cherish that. The film, you know, when I went to, you know, all these places around the world, I filmed with them also and asked them the question, what does healing look like? So there's a film component of this, a short film, about 12 minutes. And then there's also components of augmented reality, is where you can actually take your phone, you can download an app called iJack. Yes. And you can literally go to different photos within the exhibit. And if you take your phone and scan it above, there's certain elements that move and transform right in front of you from your app. So it's a great way to sort of use sort of the new age with the older age of just, you know, photography that stays still. And then we also have, in the exhibit, we have iPads. We have 4 iPads that's in the exhibit that will allow you to look at a particular photo, identify the number, and then you can go on either your app or the iPad or your phone, and you can actually caption the photo on how you see it. So for example, the way you caption a photo is different from how I would caption it, but we would begin to have a conversation that may be uncomfortable, but we're learning from each other. The way you see it is different from how I see it, but how can we create that engagement? So in a way, it's unlike an exhibit of any kind, and we hope that it travels very well. It starts right here in the city of Pittsburgh and then travels to 9 other cities.
Sounds like a major publication in the making.
Absolutely.
What do you think is the difference between the moment of Trayvon Martin? What's different about that moment and this moment now for you doing this project?
Yeah, well, I think the difference is the fact that when we have the ability to change, we have to do it. I'll say that again. When we have the ability and the wherewithal to make a change, we have to do it. Mm-hmm. We can't sit and watch like we did for so many years. We have to get up, we have to mobilize, we have to create change so that this could, we can come up with, ideas on how to sort of shift the trajectory on how this is going, whether that's political change, whether that's starting foundations like a lot of these mothers have done in the name of their sons,
yes.
Whether it's, changing legislation from, the mother of Emmett Till, how she, back, all decades ago said, no, my son's going to go viral. You need to bring all your newspapers, all your magazines, and take pictures and put it all over, the newspapers, which was our internet at that time, so that people could see what the difference that we all need to make as individuals. So that's the passion, and that's the difference from, all the way, back and, to original slave catchers, which turned into police, to now, to 2022, as we think of what we can do as individuals and as artists, we got to mobilize, we got to move towards justice.
Right, I agree, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So there are stats and data. This has taken research. OpticVoices has taken research, it's taken sociological research that you and your team have done to put together this exhibition.
Yes.
How did the data and the stats that you've encountered mm-hmm. affect your approach to this material?
Well, first of all, hats off to my senior producer, Reese Randall, who's absolutely phenomenal at what she does. Stats are important, percentages are important, and math is important to this all. We can't necessarily just go into an exhibit like this not knowing the facts, not double checking the information to make sure it's right. We put together a timeline, which is also a component of OpticVoices that really educates the person who's experiencing OpticVoices Mama's Boys. Because here's the thing, one of the reasons why I called it OpticVoices is because me as an artist, I provide the optic. But we charge individuals like yourself and others to provide a voice for this work so that we can learn from each other. And one of those components is the educational piece that's in the timeline. We don't want you to just come in and just look at photos and then leave. We want you to be educated when you come over the threshold very differently from when you leave this exhibit, which is why it's so crucially important that institutions like the August Wilson African American Cultural Center have the support that it needs for artists like myself.
And for artists like myself as well.
There you go.
So we can have, these conversations, right?
Yes.
We gotta make sure that people have a fluid understanding of the human experience of what it's like to experience structural violence over and over again.
Yes.
And how there's such gross misrepresentation of the realities that we face every day and losing our family and possibly losing ourselves just in the journey of our mundane daily lives.
Absolutely.
So it's important, and you're doing that work.
No,
and it's phenomenal.
No, thank you so much, for sure.
So you engage the mothers in not just journalistic inquiry, not just photography. You are building relationships with these mothers, so that way you can actually establish a realistic, poignant, well-informed, compassionate rendition of representation of themselves and their sons.
Absolutely.
The media treats Black women abhorrently. And after the oppression of being Black and the oppression of being a woman, they also have the oppression of being activists, outspoken activists about what their sons have suffered. I want you to tell me, what's the thing that you learned from these mothers that you never thought in a million years you had to learn? What is the question that they gave you that you never knew that you had to ask?
Yes. One of the things that I learned from all of these women and traveling to 9, 10 cities in 2 different countries to capture their stories. And I tell you, there was conflict getting there, all the rigmarole that I had to go through to get in and out of these cities. I did not have one red or white blood cell in my body that complained, because here I am. First of all, I'm still wrapping around the fact, Jessica, that they invited me to their homes, they invited me into their soul, and they invited me into their hearts.
Trust.
To keep their son's legacy and name alive. The level of trust with our team in a matter of days, from an email, a phone call, from our senior producer, Reese Randall, like what she was able to do and what we were able to do as a team to make this happen, where there are organizations that have been trying to connect with these mothers probably for months and years, if even.
Right.
Walking the streets of Florida with Sabrina Fulton, having her tell me what her favorite cereal was growing up as a child, and us cutting up and her telling me things about Trayvon that nobody else on the planet knows. Or whether it's, giving Leslie McSpadden a hug, or calming Wanda Cooper Jones down because she's a little bit nervous for the interview and she's a little bit emotional, holding up Ahmaud Arbery's jersey that he used to wear. Or whether it's Valerie Castile holding the PlayStation controller that Philando used to rock with on a daily when he would come from school.
Yeah.
That is a lot to deal with, but you know what, Jessica? For these women to trust me with that process was so priceless. This is more than an exhibit. This is something that we're putting together that will last for 10 generations after us. And there's no other exhibit like this in the world. When Reverend Wanda Johnson said, I wonder why it took so long for someone to really do something like this. I want to tell you, I appreciate you keeping Oscar Grant's name alive. Who am I to complain about any delays? How many times the plane gets da-da-da? How many times I got to tow the rental car because I don't have time to drop it off at the airport? I didn't eat today because I had to hurry up and do this and do that. I have nothing to complain about. So to land a plane, the fact that one of the biggest things that I learned from all of the women collectively is never come to a situation with a problem, come to a situation with a solution.
Yes. 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 It's good. It's a good lesson for all of us to learn. And it's poignant that they had that to give after losing so much.
After
losing so much, they still had so much to give you and offer you. And in some way, they still were able to manifest their sons for you.
Yes, they will. And it still strikes me that I took a photo of Valerie Castile in the middle of the streets of Brooklyn blowing a kiss at the camera. These mothers go through a whole lot, but they are some of the strongest human beings in the world.
And I've got to see a few previews of some of the portraits. They are incredible.
Thank you so much.
They are incredible. These women are, after everything they've gone through in these photos, Emmai, I have to tell you, they just look vibrant. They are alive. They are themselves.
Yes.
And that is a lot to say.
That's a lot to say after being so
the
much.
public firestorm, the political firestorm, and then the personal loss that everybody wanted to overlook. in their lives.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to pivot because there's a lot of sociological research behind this as well. And there are sociologists and psychologists who want to talk about police brutality as being a public health emergency, right?
Yes.
What do you think about the medicalization of not the phenomenon, but the continued history of police brutality? What about making it medical, a public health emergency, changes how we receive it?
Yeah, I think that it is something to be examined. It's something that's been examined for centuries now. And I think now we have such an incredible and valuable force that we didn't have decades ago, centuries ago. But now in 2022, we really have the force and the power behind making that change. We have to look at mental health in a way that we've never looked at it before. And the reason why I'm saying 2022 or now more than ever is because mental health has been put to the forefront now so more than ever before. I don't know if you remember, Jessica, but after George Floyd, I started going online and seeing all these emails, all these big top companies sending emails saying, oh, we apologize, oh, we're so sorry, oh, da-da-da, and they started sort of—
Have you checked on your Black friend today?
No, right?
Yes.
I was getting phone calls like, hey, listen, I know I'm late, but at least I'm learning. I just wanted to check in on you. It was so terrible what happened. And it's like, wow, okay, you're getting it, but how can we begin to build more allyship and more advocacy that surrounds what police brutality looks like, what it's been looking like, and what it's going to look like from now on. So I think we have the wherewithal to really orbit that conversation to make sure that it is not only a national, but it's a worldwide medical emergency.
I think that also provides opportunities for funding as well.
Yeah.
With that language, you can write grants. You can actually go to communities. You can actually make resources. You can actually interface with police departments to talk about abolition in a meaningful way that's accessible for most people to understand what that really means.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so finding that in the information you provided me about the exhibition was really intriguing. And I want to do more research on what that sociological and psychological study actually looks like.
Yes.
What is it providing for us, right? The people who, as Christina Sharp would say, are living in the wake of this continuous, systemically approved and supported kind of violence. Right?
Yes.
And so anyone who reads anything about you anywhere knows that you are unstoppable.
Oh, wow.
You refuse to be stopped. You're going.
Yeah.
And anything that's in your way, you're like, that's there, but I'm still going.
Absolutely.
And I think that tenacity is a part of how you can commit fully to these stories that you focus on. Because if you didn't have that tenacity, surely the material would take you out, so to speak.
Trust me, it would be difficult.
And you've built this career with your hands. What has your career given you that you never dreamed you'd see in a million years?
Wow. Well, I don't like to think of it as a career.
Calling.
Yeah, calling or being. You know what I mean? I think when people go within themselves to be, they won't go without what they need to heal and to grow, right? So this is therapeutic for me. A lot of people, sometimes they'll ask, what makes you happy? What brings you joy and what makes your soul smile? Telling stories, investing in other people, hugging hearts, gripping souls, understanding the mission of minds and people's mental capacity is what gives me life. When I'm no longer here, I would like my work to do all the speaking for me. With OpticVoices Mama's Boys, when I worked with each of the mothers, I wanted all of them to smile and show me their dental plan before I left them. I gave them hugs. I sat with them, I held their hand, and in a way, my presence was therapeutic for me, and it was healing for them.
To be witnessed.
To be heard, to be in the same space. Sometimes all we need to heal is for someone to be in the same space.
Yes.
That understands the love and what you've been through. One of the questions that I asked Trayvon Martin's mom is, what does healing look like? She said, I don't know if I'll ever heal, but I am in the process of healing. And I turned around and said the same thing to her. I said, I'm not here to try to heal you. I just want to do my part in your healing. When you come to OpticVoices Mama's Boys, this just isn't an artistic exhibit. This is a lifetime experience.
Yes. Thank you. And then one of my last questions, and it's a follow-up because we had a work dinner together.
Sure.
And you asked me, what kind of questions would you ask me if you were going to interview me?
Sure.
And one of the questions I asked you was, what is the photograph you wish you could have taken that you didn't take? And you described to me being at a setting, at a protest where you wanted to photograph Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, but you didn't take the photo because it wasn't the right time. Is there a photo in OpticVoices that answers that question too? That didn't happen, the photo that never was?
Let me think. The photo that I wish I could have taken of Leslie McSpadden, in 2020, I wanted to do a photo of her crisscross applesauce in the middle of the street, sitting down at the very spot where they found Mike Brown's body. But I wanted to have her get the shirt that he was shot in, and I wanted her to hold the shirt alongside as if she was holding him for the first time when he was born, just like a baby. I wanted to take that, but I also knew that that might be a little bit too much. And it didn't really focus on her healing. It focused on romanticizing his death or the way he was killed. So I wanted to take that photo, but I knew that photo was not to be taken. So instead, she has this remarkable photo where she holds a photo of Mike Brown in the middle of the street in St. Louis. God's the majestic mathematician of time, and God allowed that to happen at that moment, and it came out remarkable.
What's the next dream? What's the next dream project? If you could be offered anything to do, what would you want to do? So
the next dream project is already in my head.
Yes, of course it is.
Already in the works.
It wouldn't be anywhere else, right?
Shortly after this, I am going to be working with my team to put together a film / documentary on infant mortality in Black and brown communities. And with this film, we're really going to tell the story of voices that were never heard or voices that were cut short. We think that that's a very important subject. We can never run out of stories to tell when it comes to our people. And I am just absolutely delighted and excited and grateful to be able to be an artist that can tell those stories.
Thank you. Congratulations on everything, Emmai.
Thank you so
much.
And
thank you for doing this with me.
Give me Huggy Muggy. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to see this exhibition. It's going to be everything that your intent was and also what the mothers need to see.
Of course. Thank you again.
Thank you.